sending 2 Patriot anti-missile batteries to Poland as a defensive deployment at the request of the Polish government. The move comes after the Pentagon rejected Poland's offer to send fighter jets meant for Ukraine to a U.S. NATO airbase in Germany. Meanwhile, U.S. officials warn there will soon be just 10 to 14 days worth of food and supplies available in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. Let's bring in former senior Pentagon official Wendy Anderson for more on that. Wendy, thanks for being here. The CIA director, Bill Burns, testified before Congress that he thinks Vladimir Putin is angry and frustrated and will likely double down on his attacks with no regard for civilian casualties. So where did Putin go wrong with this invasion, and where do things stand now?
Diane, I'll tell you, it is the question that I think so many of us are surprised by and trying to figure out. Vladimir Putin, somewhat surprisingly to many of us who've been watching this closely, this is day 14, as you well know, has underestimated almost every single important aspect of this conflict to date. He has underestimated the Ukrainian resistance. He has underestimated the sophisticated use of information technology and social media that the Ukrainians have and have grown up with in this different generation of leadership under Vladimir Zelensky. He has profoundly underestimated his own forces, the power and the competence of his own forces, as we have seen play out day after day, really hour after hour, as ABC News Live has been reporting from the ground. And I'll tell you 2 other things, Diane, that I think are really worth stressing here. He has unified NATO. Now, many people have been saying that on and off for a period of days, but I want to underscore that NATO has not been this aligned and this unified, really probably since the attacks on 9/11, and on the basis of which Article 5 was invoked. The unification of NATO, the unification of the EU with American leadership, also in partnership, is something that Vladimir Putin, ironically, absolutely did not want to happen. And I will also add one last point to this, which is that he underestimated American leadership. Obviously, the United States is a very powerful member of NATO. We take our partnership in that alliance and membership in that alliance deadly seriously, as you can see. I think Vladimir Putin thought that President Biden and this administration would not be as skillful and as thoughtful about what they've introduced. And what I will use as my example is to talk about how they have quite masterfully played in the background a very dedicated and intentional longer game of introducing intelligence out into the open so that we threw, as a NATO alliance, Vladimir Putin off his game. It is rare in the last 40 to 50 years of his ascension and his leadership within Russia that he has been so publicly thrown off his game. We forced him as an alliance to rethink his war plan. And in the time that it took to do that, we were able to amass thousands and thousands of troops along NATO's Eastern Europe, Eastern flank. We were able to deliver munitions of all kinds, but particularly anti-tank javelins and anti-aircraft Stingers. As you well know, we are also in the midst of discussing with Poland and with other NATO partners how we might consider transferring aircraft that the Ukrainians have been requesting into Ukraine to give them even more air dominance than they have already established. What we know, Diane, is that what many thought would be perhaps a shorter conflict of a couple of weeks, we know that's not true. This is a conflict that will be months, if not longer.
Now, Russia is warning of a potentially dangerous scenario if Western countries use their airfields to support Ukraine. Why is, for example, sending Polish fighter jets to Ukraine so different from providing weapons like anti-tank missiles? And what more can U.S. allies do to support Ukraine without turning this into a much larger conflict?
That particular question is one that many of us have been focused on for the last week. You know, we, as you and your viewers understand, I think what the United States needs to be doing, at least, and I'll start there, is more of what we are doing. You mentioned the javelins, you mentioned the stingers. We have been engaged in providing those munitions now for many, many weeks. The introduction of a no-fly zone, for example, or of aircraft into contested airspace over Ukraine is something that is a bridge still too far, not only for the United States, as this administration has made clear, but also for the entire alliance. And here's why. Vladimir Putin has been very clear in saying, if there is any introduction of foreign aircraft into this space, I will see it as an escalatory move and I will respond in kind. As we have seen with Vladimir Putin, given his behavioral track record over decades, he tends to escalate when he is scared and when he is angry and when he is frustrated. And we know from the testimony of American intelligence community officials yesterday, the Director of National Intelligence, the Central Intelligence Agency head, that he is frustrated and that he is stymied by and surprised by the incompetence and the challenges that he has faced, originally thinking that he would have probably within a week or so decapitated Kiev, for example, and installed a much more Moscow-friendly puppet regime there. I think we have to be very careful to listen to him, take him at his word, and believe that if he says, if there is an introduction of aircraft, whether it's Polish aircraft from an American Air Force base or whether it's other NATO aircraft, that he will respond and that he will respond significantly. And we cannot afford to do that right now.
All right, Wendy Anderson, we appreciate your analysis. Wendy, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.